So the topic this morning is the dynamic laws of prosperity. And I remember when I was first in this philosophy, and hearing these laws was really new information, because it never occurred to me that my thoughts were so powerful, that what I think into life, I absolutely get back. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But to get us started, I'm going to have Reverend Liz Wiloma read to you from the front of your program something Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote about these laws and how they work.
If we think poverty and lack, we are certainly creating them and causing them to be projected into our experience. If, on the other hand, we think abundance, then the law will as easily and as willingly create abundance for us. It is also simple that it seems unbelievable. But the average person who has no knowledge of this law, has only use of it, will be a reflection of what the consensus of human opinion believes must take place in the life of the majority of the individuals who may happen to be living at any time on earth. The savage thinks after the mode of his or her tribe, and the more civilized thinks after the mold of racial belief. To assert our individuality is to rise above the law of averages into that more highly specialized use of the law, which brings freedom rather than bondage, joy in a place of grief, and wholeness instead of sickness. We cannot do this unless we are first willing to judge not according to appearances. We are impressing the law with a new idea of ourselves, a less limited idea, and we are learning to think independently of any existing circumstances. This is what is meant by entering the absolute.
Thank you, Liz. Good job. Give her a round of applause for doing that. So, I know it sounds odd to some people who've never given the first inkling of attention to the way they think about who they are, or how they tend to think about who they are on a regular, ongoing basis. So the fact that you get back exactly what you think into life is really, really an important piece of information. So that means that you want to be very conscious of what you're thinking and how you're thinking into life. Otherwise, you would constantly getting back that sense of discouragement, disappointment, or deception, or sense of being disenfranchised in the world. Because if you feel that way, then that's exactly what you have to experience. Now, this is important when it comes to prosperity, because prosperity is not about an amount of money. I know some people in here would disagree. They say, well, prosperity is when I have twice as much, or 3 times as much, as 4 times as much as what I currently have, because I could really use some help right now. And there's certainly a lot of people in our society experiencing that right now. But that's not the measure of what real prosperity is. Real prosperity is when you're peaceful, and you're happy, and you're present all the time. Not just some of the times, but all the time. And you're peaceful, not because something made you peaceful, but because you consciously chose to be peaceful. You said, today, I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to live in peace. I'm going to practice peace. And no matter what happens, I will not be taken down by any opinion or any circumstance or any condition until somebody cuts me off on the freeway. And then all of a sudden, I'm not so peaceful anymore. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that there are going to be times in the world when the world is operating not on the level of peace, but on the level of what we call the law of averages, which means your average person just gets up and they don't set their intention for the day, and they certainly don't function in that idea of who they are as being peaceful, except if somebody offers them peace. So remember that old saying, blessed are the peacemakers. And what Jesus was talking about there was that the people that bring peace to the world are those who are consciously practicing the principle. Now the second one, happiness, of course, is usually typically assigned to other people in your life. Other people have to make you happy. And if that's your intention and that's the way you live your life, you have a long time to wait in between periods of happiness. Because people will not make you happy, or they will not make you unhappy. Happiness is truly something that you do for yourself. But real happiness happens, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, when you are completely unified with God. When you trust your life. I'll say that again, when you trust your life. Because most people don't trust their lives. Because things keep happening which indicate, why should I trust? Look what happened today. Look at the circumstances. Look at the conditions. Look at the people in my life. Why would I trust life? Life's never done anything for me. So people have this kind of whiner's attitude, which was actually, you know, there's 12 lost tribes of the Israelis. Well, the whiners were the 13th tribe. They're always lost. When you're whining, when you're unhappy because life isn't treating you right, it just proves that the law works by appearing not to work. I'll say that again. The law works by appearing not to work. So if your unhappiness is making you even more unhappy, then the law is providing you exactly what you're putting into it. This is so important for you to understand this, because those dynamic laws of prosperity are functioning 24/7. Irrespective of what's going on in the world, they're functioning according to what's going on in your head, in your heart, how you feel about yourself at any given moment of your life. So people say to me frequently, but how am I going to get this inner sense of happiness? What Gene Houston called abbondanza. Abbondanza. Say it. Abbondanza, which means abundance in Italian. So abundance, how do you get this happiness of abundance? How do you do that? You have to unify with God all the time, 24/7. Jesus said it a little different. He said you got to pray unceasingly, which means you got to stay connected. You got to stay one with this power. Now, people often say to me, but I've stayed one with the power, but my life hasn't necessarily gotten simpler or easier. You ever notice that? I've been praying, but it doesn't seem like life gets easier. But you know what happens? Is by staying upright in the law, you're prepared for when the good does come. You're prepared for when it does come. Now I'll give you a perfect example. Some of you know I've been dislocated from my home for about 3.5 weeks now because we had a fire at our house. And so the fire, meant that we had to leave the house while they take out everything that was damaged and then get the place ready for reconstruction. The place has been ready to start reconstruction for the last week and a half, but the paperwork to do the job has been slow in coming. Anybody ever experienced that? Paperwork is slow in coming. So is it easy to be peaceful? Not really. Not really. The tendency is to get disappointed, discouraged. And then, of course, what's interesting about this whole thing is because I live in a condominium project, it's the homeowners association that handles the insurance company. Now, I've called my homeowners president, the association president, like 5 times last week, and nobody returned my phone calls. What am I to think? What am I to think? And so I'm getting more and more sort of like irritated. But it's this sort of inner irritation which causes an outer experience of irritation too. So on Friday morning, I knew that they had the paperwork. I knew the contractor was ready. So I was driving over to my house, and I was getting angrier and angrier, and suddenly I said, stop. Stop this way of thinking. I literally had to stop my way of thinking. I had to stop my mind from going to a place which was even going to make me more irritated. I said, I've got to affirm the truth. And the truth is, everything today falls into perfect order, perfect places. Everybody's going to be taken care of. The whole thing is going to happen today. I'm affirming that truth, and I'm going with the intention of treating that homeowners association with great respect and great love. Now, if I hadn't done that, I would have gone there, would have boom, boom, boom on the door. What do you mean by not keep? I would have had this like really bad attitude. And instead I knocked on the door, he opened the door and said, hi, Jim, come on in, let's take a look at the contract. Let's call the contractor. We called the contractor. The contractor came, he's all set to start on Tuesday. Isn't that amazing? Now, I mean, it really is amazing. And by the way, we had sprinkler systems in our house. So the sprinkler went on and actually saved the house from burning down. And you know what's really interesting is they hadn't capped off the sprinkler yet. And the guy came by during the week to test the sprinklers, to make sure they were not knowing that the sprinkler hadn't been capped off yet. So when he turned it on, the house got all wet again. Well, that's another. And I was looking at you going, how could he do that? But again, if I'm going to be peaceful, and I'm going to be, God, you guys are short members today. If I'm going to be peaceful, and I'm going to be happy, thank you very much, and I'm going to trust God, because I am happy, and I'm going to be present. If I'm going to be happy, peaceful, and present, see, I have to really work on these principles. I have to really get focused. And so I said, you know, we haven't capped off the sprinkler yet. We got right on the phone, called the company that did it. He was out there in 20 minutes, got it capped off, ready to go. And it's like everything happened that needed to happen according to exactly as I put it into the law. Whatever you put into that law, it feeds back to you. Now, everything would have happened. Some people might say, well, it would have happened anyway. But what if I remained angry all day? Get this? What if I remained angry, everything got done, but I was still angry that it didn't get done according to my expectation? Then I could never have lived in gratitude at that point, because I've still been angry. And does that anger tend to leak into other areas of your life? Yeah. And when it does, nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. And so the tendency is you take yourself with you and you're not present because you're so angry that something didn't get done according to your expectation. But when it gets done, are you grateful? As a matter of fact, are you grateful for anything you have? And if you are grateful, have you expressed your gratitude in your own words? Because you see, words activate the law. How you think and what you say is so important, and it really makes a huge difference. And you can't be phony about it. You have to be real about it. You have to be transparent. I remember when I was in college, Cal State University of Los Angeles, and I was from Glendale, California, and I had a friend of mine, Henry Mora, who grew up in East LA. Henry was a fantastic trombone player, still has a wonderful Latin jazz band today. But Henry came from East LA. I was a kid from Glendale. Henry said to me one day in the music department, he says, hey Jim, you know how to fight? I said, no, I don't know how to fight. I'm from Glendale. We didn't work on that subject yet. He says, well, you know, you're in East LA, because Cal State LA is in East LA, kind of borders to Alhambra in East LA. He says, you know, I'm going to teach you something. He says, if you're ever challenged, he says, never turn your full body towards the person who's challenging. You always turn your profile and kind of crouch like this. And I said, well, why, Henry? It's because there's less of you to hit. I thought, now this guy, he knows what he's talking about. But I said, you know, Henry, my intention was never to get you in a situation where I had to do that. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of you that keep a low profile for that exact reason, because you're afraid of being hit. You're afraid of somebody saying something negative, something bad. But the truth is, if you're completely transparent, if you're completely what? If you're completely transparent, whatever is being aimed at you goes right through you. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you. But if you're like this and you're going to protect yourself, then you're already anticipating getting hit. See, that anticipation automatically renders you useless. You're not really useful in the world in that case. You're not useful because you're not here peacefully. And you're not certainly happy. You're scared. And you're certainly not present, except for the possibility that something bad could happen to you. So by changing and shifting this frame of mind, you could in fact change your entire experience of life. Now, does that mean that bad things or unfortunate things might still happen to you? It doesn't. Of course it does. But you'll remain upright. You will not go down in the sense of defeat or discouragement or disappointment. You'll stay upright, completely transparent, and you will transform the energy of all what appears to be the negativity into a complete expression of an emerging presence within you that's radiating something that attracts something even greater to your good. So radiation automatically indicates attraction. Now, having said that, it's also said in a different way, what you reap, you sow. You can't get love unless you sow love. So as you give, so shall you receive. So giving is a really important part of this because you can't get something for nothing, because a lot of people, when it comes to prosperity, they're waiting to hit the lottery. They're waiting to hit the lottery. I have many people come to me and say, Dr. Jim, if you'll pray that I win the lottery, I'll give the church 10%. People have actually said that to me. And I say, well, why would I pray for you to hit the lottery? Because I'll tell you what, if I hit the lottery, I'll give you 10%. Now, this is where we get screwed up in our thinking about giving. Because giving is always seen as something, well, if I give this, will I get that? You can't give with the intention of getting. You have to give with the intention of receiving. There's a difference between getting and receiving. The getters are those that are out there constantly trying to get stuff. I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this. The receivers simply go through completely open and ready to receive. They're good. Put your hands up like this. Ready to receive, they're good. But mentally you have to do this too. And you have to practice this over and over and over again. Ready to receive your good. Ready to receive your love. Now there's three things you're going to receive. You're going to get time, you're going to get talent, and you're going to get treasure. But you have to be willing to give time, talent, and treasure. So put your hands down for a second. Let's talk about this giving stuff, because it's really confusing to a lot of people. Now what I'm about to say to you is not a plea for you to give us more money. That's not what this is about. What this is about is to understand the law. And the law says, as you give in full measure, you will receive. Now that means that to measure something, that means you have to take an accounting of what you have. So you have to take this inventory of what's been given to you, and then make sure you give back to something that's nurturing you. When you give to causes because you feel this cause is in crisis, there's a crisis here and I want to help, that's wonderful, that's super. But that's not giving spiritually. That's gifting to something that really needs your help. I gift all the time. I got a check in my pocket for the teenagers. Believe me, they need our help. They need our help to go to camp. I was sitting in a meeting the other day, well, heart to heart with the ministers, and I hope you sign up for one of those meetings. And one of the parents there said, you know, if it wasn't for the generosity of people in this church, my daughter could never have afforded to go to summer camp. And because she did go to summer camp, it changed her life forever. It does change her life. I went to summer camp for 5 years as an adult, chaperone and also as a counselor. I watched kids change dramatically right before my eyes. I watched kids who came hating their parents and going away not only loving their parents, but liking their sister and brother. That was huge. We did one exercise where, and we do workshops this afternoon, where they did your picture of your family. And there's like 10 kids in the group, and I was the papa, and I had an assistant who was like the other parent of the group. And what we had to do is each person had to arrange people in the group as if they were taking a photograph of your family. And so we would pick somebody to be the dad and the mom, the sister, the brother, the dog, the cat, whatever. And then we would arrange them, and kids would actually ask the dad to leave the photograph because they didn't want to take a picture because they were really angry at their dad, or angry at their mom, or angry at their brother. And you know what we used to do? We used to ask the kid who was playing the dad, how does that make you feel? How do you feel when you get rejected? How do you feel when somebody leaves you out of the picture? And then they said, wow, I never thought about that. The dynamic laws of abundance are very clear. You've got to get the picture in your mind, completely receiving and forgiving. So forgiveness is a huge part of abundance and prosperity. Because no matter how much good comes into your life, you'll never feel peaceful. You'll never feel happy because you're disconnected from God because you've rejected somebody in your life. And I know people sometimes, don't they deserve to be rejected? Seemingly so. But don't reject them. Because the only person you'll hurt is yourself. It's hard to forgive certain people. I know it's hard, it's just difficult, but you gotta do it if you want to be prosperous. And there's a lot of people with a lot of money who are not prosperous because they're not peaceful, they're not happy, and they're certainly they're not present. You ever been around somebody who wasn't present? They were there, but they weren't present. You ever been around somebody who was present? They're loving, they're compassionate, they're caring, they're there for you. So laws of prosperity are dynamic because they affect your entire existence, because prosperity is guaranteed. You're already guaranteed all of this prosperity and wealth. It's in the Bible. It's in all of the scriptures. My favorite story in the Bible is Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Joseph, this young son who has this amazing capacity to dream, and he can interpret dreams. And he starts telling this to his dad, who's so impressed he gives him the coat of many colors. It makes his brothers and sisters very jealous. And so what do? They conspired to kill him. Do you know that as you become more peaceful and happier, and you become more present, sometimes people see you as a threat? They do. So you have to understand this about the dynamic laws of prosperity, because as you rise up in peace, some people see you as, well, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to be so happy, to be so peaceful? Who do you think you are? So you have to understand that sometimes people don't understand peace. They don't understand happiness from the inside out. And they certainly don't understand being present. But that's where you have to become even more transparent. Not keep the low profile, because the tendency is to want to go with the low profile, because you certainly don't want to be a target, but you won't be a target if you're in conscious unity with God. You just won't be. You'll be there for people in ways that you could never have imagined before, because you have learned how to give back. And giving back is so important. It's vital. Matter of fact, if you learn how to give back, it'll also help you understand what we call the strange anomalies of life. What is a strange anomaly of life? It means that there's something going on in your life which is so confusing, so disruptive, like a fire at your house, that you're wondering, what did I do to deserve this? Nothing. It's just a part of the journey that you're going through. Are you upright? Are you caring? Are you receptive that the life is treating you good? There's this great story. I love this story. It's about a guy who's going through the desert and he's dying of thirst, and he's just crawling through the desert and he sees a guy out in the middle of the desert selling ties. And he goes up to the guy and the guy has no water, but I can sell you a tie. He says, I don't need a tie, I need water. He says, well, there's a restaurant right over the next stand. And the guy crawls over the next stand. There's a restaurant. He gets to the restaurant and he sees a sign. No ties, no service. You think to yourself, why didn't I buy the tie? How many times have you said that to yourself about things? Why didn't I do that when I had the opportunity? I didn't take a chance because I didn't believe that was part of the deal. Because I think I'm supposed to know it all. You're not supposed to know it all. You're supposed to be available so it all could be revealed to you in its own way. So sometimes you have to do things completely on faith, which is the last aspect of the dynamic laws. You have to activate faith. Now, most people do not live in what we call a positive faith. They live in what we call a negative faith. You can absolutely have a negative faith. Faith is a faculty. It's not a principle. It's just something everybody's got. Where did you put your faith? You say, I don't know. I guess I put my faith that I'm not enough. I guess I put my faith that I can't ever really anticipate ever having a greater life than this. I put my faith in the wrong place. Where you put your faith, that's what grows. Don't put your faith in something negative. Don't put your faith in something that's not productive. Put your faith in something that's productive and positive. And sometimes people always, well, you're just talking about that old positive thinking stuff. Well, yeah. You know what the American Sign Language for duh is? Take your fist. Duh. Put your faith in positive, productive thoughts. Now, why don't people do this? Because they're so hypnotized by the negativity, they've learned negativity as a way of living. To learn positively requires that you would have to actually activate faith. You ever gotten a credit card in the mail? What does it say on the credit card? To activate, call this phone number. So imagine you receiving this invitation to be prosperous. To activate, pray. To activate what? Pray. Prayer would activate your faith. Because prayer, done in the way we do it, which is to recognize God's presence, unify with it, declare it as the operating presence of your life, give thanks for it, release it, let it go. That's a prayer. Don't sit around and beg God, please God, if you do this, I'll do that. Or if you do this, I'll do that. Well, God, you make up your mind while I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. See how confusing that is to beg? Don't beg. Declare who you are. Make that declaration the power of your existence. I am now expressing a greater truth. Say that. Than I've ever experienced before. More good is in my life than ever before. Now I'm going to give you a chance to actually practice what I'm preaching. I love saying that. I'm going to give you a chance. There's 4 dynamic affirmations that Catherine Ponder uses in her book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. I'm going to read them to you, but I'm not going to give them to you. You have to go online to get them. You have to call the office, and we'll send them to you. You know, what if you go home, you walk out and say, well, I ain't going online, I ain't doing that stuff. Why would I want to do that stuff? Because you don't activate faith. You haven't got any faith, except in the negative. Listen to this one. You cannot get something for nothing, but you can have the best of everything when you give full measure for the good you wish to receive. You cannot get something for nothing, but you can have the best of everything when you give full measure for the good you wish to receive. So when you receive that, what do you do with it? Do you okay, I got it, now what? Now say it over and over again. Say it 4 or 5 times a day. You know, I often say to people, develop a red light ministry. Whenever you have a red light, put this affirmation on the dashboard. And every time there's a red light, start to read it to yourself. I guarantee you the green light will happen like this. And people will honk behind you and says, I love Jesus too. Next affirmation. I am not discouraged. I am persistent. I go forward. I am determined to achieve success in God's own wonderful way. I am not discouraged. I am persistent. I go forward. I am determined to achieve success in God's own wonderful way. That affirmation says, God, I'm willing to accept it as you're ready to give it. Next one. Divine law expresses through me all that is needed to make me happy and my life complete. Divine law expresses through me all that is needed to make me happy and my life complete. Last one. Everything and everybody prospers me now. Everything and everybody prospers me now. You're thinking this into the law. When you think it in the law has to create the experience of it. But if you don't think it in the law because you're so discouraged, you're so disappointed, you're so unhappy, you're so angry, whatever, then that's what you get back. Confusion, more anger, more reason to be discouraged. But when you start reading these in the law, and you do it consistently, I guarantee you, your life will change. I guarantee it. But in order for it to happen, you'd have to do what? You have to go online or call the office and get it. And then when you printed it or we send it to you, because I'm not going to make it available to you today. That'd be too easy. I remember Paul Williams and a friend of his, this big, huge guy, he was in all those Smokey Robinson, Smokey and the Bandit pictures. Pat McCormick. And he used to go to bars a lot. And Pat would come out and Paul, they would be kind of inebriated. And Pat would say, you know, I don't remember where I left my car. And Paul would say, well, what kind of car is it? And Pat would look at Paul and say, no, that would be cheating. I love that story. So it's like, say what you want, and God will give it right back to you. But you got to be clear. You got to send in for these. Go online. They'll be up on Tuesday. They'll be up on, by Tuesday afternoon, I'll have these online at the website. 4 affirmations from Catherine Ponder for your success and your prosperity. Now, what happens if you don't activate your faith? Your credit's no good. It's no good. You don't have credit. You don't have credibility. If you want credibility, practice these things. Thank you.